fine listeners, here in the VIP lounge I've got my very special guest, all the way, can I say, from Atjazz Studios, songwriter, producer, DJ, performer, Si Tew. How are you?
Hey, I'm very well. Thank you, Frenchie. How you doing?
Not too bad, Si, not too bad. Well, from your humble beginnings from Leamington Spa,
Yes.
where would you say your early music experience started?
I played instruments and things as a kid, as you know, a lot of people did. I got my first set of turntables when I was 14, some old rubbish belt drive things, but I was just absolutely hooked on DJing, and then that kind of led me into the music production side of things, just being intrigued as to how those sounds were created and put together.
So as a musician then, you mentioned that you played some musical instruments. What were they?
First one started off with guitar, played piano, like keyboard sort of stuff with my granddad, played little bits of trumpet and things like that, played drums. I don't play any of them well particularly, but I kind of play a few of them enough to be able to lay down what I want, and if it's something, you know, really nice that needs doing, then I'll get somebody in who really knows their stuff with it.
Okay, so you do come from a bit of a musical background?
Yeah, look, it wasn't the most musical of houses that I lived in. When my grandparents came over, my granddad was, you know, in like the old colliery bands and things like that, so he was always really keen to kind of keep the music going.
So as a DJ and a music collector, can you remember the very first record you bought?
I can remember the very, very first record that I bought was, well, I got the first one I bought from the shop. When I bought my decks, I got given 3 records.
Okay.
Some old drum and bass ones. But the very first thing I went into a shop and bought was on Metalhead, and it's called Pulp Fiction.
Oh.
Great drum and bass tune. It's really good. That was what I used to play when I first started, kind of drum and bass and things like that.
So during your university days now, you started to acquire the skills as a producer. If you could share some of those experiences for me.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about university was it wasn't so much the course. That kind of taught me some bits, but it was more just for the first time ever being thrown into kind of a hotbed of creativity, because, you know, we're all there doing the same courses and things like that. So just learning that, working with other people. So I had a studio set up in my room, and I ended up moving out into a friend's room. So my room was just set up as a studio, and we used to have various different rappers and vocalists coming in every day. My uni halls just became a kind of a sort of halfway house studio that everybody used to come through.
Okay.
I learned a lot of things the hard way, but it was a really, really good process, learning how to work with other people and how to record vocals properly, etc., etc.
I've noticed during your education you gained a BAc in music technology, gaining a bursary with the BBC. Can you explain what this did for you in moving on as a producer and also within music?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so the BSc, that was the course that I did at university. So it was Bachelor of Science. So I was concerned that I didn't want somebody telling me necessarily how to write my music, but I just wanted to have a better understanding of how sound works and the physics of sound and recording techniques and psychoacoustics. I'm just a bit of a nerd with all those sort of things as well, so I really enjoyed finding out the kind of the deeper parts of that. So that was great. But then the bursary, that was in my final year of university. I had the opportunity to submit some music, and I was chosen to move forward. So I think it was about 16 or 17 of us from around the country who were chosen, and we were taken up to Manchester for like a 3-day sort of workshop course, working with various different producers and marketing people, and, you know, from all across the industry. It was brilliant, and because I was one of the younger ones there as well, it was great working alongside producers who they'd made albums that I listened to, like Roots Manuva's first album. The guy who produced a lot of that was there, who I became good friends with, and, you know, just these people who were quite a few years further along their journey than me.
So in 2007 you met who was going to become the legendary Martin Atjazz Iverson. How did that relationship start and how did it develop?
Right, okay, so it started in my final year of university. I got the bursary. From the bursary, Martin's label at the time, Manfish Recordings, they were involved in it. They were kind of one of the sort of mentor groups. So I met one of the guys from there, and I was very interested in sound for picture and sound for video games, which is obviously what Martin did a hell of a lot of back in the day. So I was asked if I wanted to become an intern. So I used to travel up to Derby from Leicester every Friday. Yeah, Martin showed me how to kind of do sound design. So I worked on some computer games with him. He kind of showed me the rope of, you know, how record labels worked, and he's just been a great mentor and really good friend over all the years. And because we worked together so much as well, it just meant that when I finished my university course, I then moved up to Derby to work with those guys much more.
Okay. You gained lots of credits for writing and recording for films and television. If you can share some of those experiences and some of the projects that you worked worked on as well?
Yeah, I mean, there was I'll leave the experiences out where you're banging your head against a brick wall because you can't quite get it right. But I found with the TV and film stuff, there's a hell of a lot more of that than I've had with kind of the music production side of things. But yeah, I was working on lots of various different shorts. I worked with some guys from Brighton on a film called Room, and we actually went down to the BFI and won some awards with that, so that was really nice. Worked on some computer games with Martin as well, so I was involved in Shell Shock 2 and did some editing for Cartoon Network Racing, and it's something that's kind of carried on throughout my career really. So now I still do a lot of that sort of stuff, but rather than writing bespoke for it, it's more that my music gets synced, so I get a lot of use off, BBC and National Geographic and people like this. So I think that kind of the early skills that I've learned seem to have kind of carried all the way through, to what I do now really.
So Si Tew, the DJ now, how did he develop at this time?
How did he develop? Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing was playing on vinyl, playing records, and I was just instantly addicted to it, and that's not changed. So the DJing side of it, I just absolutely love. But then as I got more into my kind of music taste changed and matured as I went along, and I've always liked to play quite a few different genres within a set. So as more technology kind of was available, it meant I started to try and bring more of that in. So now, I mean, I'd love playing records, and I'm sure some people will they'll disagree with me on this, but I actually prefer, if I'm playing out, to play on CDJs than to play on vinyl, just because I think for me the ability for doing tricks, there's much more chance to do tricks and play around than there is with playing records. I still absolutely love playing records, but for me I much prefer that side of it if I'm playing out.
So coming into music and production now, what was your first release as a recording artist came into being?
Yeah, so I think the first actual release, the first thing that properly saw the light of day was Hakan Lidbo. It was a remix for Hakan Lidbo on Mantis Recordings. And it was actually a collaboration of myself and Martin, which is kind of where our collab project Mr. Works was born. I don't even know what year it was that came out. It was quite a long time ago though.
Okay, so as a producer, because your production skills started to come into play in the recording side of things. So if you can explain some of the other singles that you was involved with leading up to your album.
Okay, yeah, cool. So the first things that I really properly released, a lot of it was sort of remix work. So I remixed a couple of things for Martin. So I did For Real, which was a Atjazz tune. So it was myself, and then I think Charles Webster did a mix. So there was quite a few other guys on there. So I did that remix there. We also had another Missed Works song out as well called Common Question that was out before my album was out. So I felt my skills were coming together, but they just didn't quite have the minerals there kind of on their own. So it was either remix work that I was doing, or it was collaboration stuff with Martin, because he's helped me out a hell of a lot over the years and kind of helped me hone my sound. And then then my first kind of solo on the world that I put out there was my album.
So the album was released when the clouds ran away, and what sort of response did you have from the album?
Yeah, really good response. It was really humbling. You sit in your studio and write this music, and you write it for yourself 9 times out of 10. So it was really nice, the response that it got, and the fact that people seem to really connect with it as well. Even recently I've had people coming up and speaking to me about the album and telling me about their kind of, their memories of when it was playing here. So it's really nice to have that. And also as well, with it being, it was quite an innocent piece of work, if you like, because it was the build-up of everything up to that point. Yeah, it was quite nice putting that out there and sort of, just seeing how people took it, and people seem to really enjoy it. So I was very, very happy and humbled by that.
So after the album release, you worked on a variety of projects with Martin, and also remixes in your own right as Si Tew, as well as developing the DJing side. So you've become really active for 2015 now.
So 2015, right, okay, so this is hopefully going to be a very busy year. So I've got, the last few years, the thing that I've really focused on is my live performance. So I play a solo set myself, but I also play in 2 other bands as well, do all of the electronics. So I play in a big world music band, and then I also play in like a dance band that's playing kind of house garage and things, which is a little more on the sort of commercial side. But what that's done, it's really helped me to hone my skills. So like the live performance stuff is something I'm really into. So I've got some some shows coming up. I've got a release out on the 22nd of May as well, which is the next single.
Is that Breathe?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
Just out of interest, you mentioned as a live artist, what do you play when you play live?
Okay, so I've got all manner of kind of buttons and pads and knobs and things that I've been sort of tweaking with for the last few years to try and get right. I think it's almost there. I'm sure it's an ever-changing thing. But I generally use an Akai APC40. I've then got an Arturia Beat Step, have a Chaos pad, and then I also have a keyboard with various different bits on it. And then I also have a microphone which runs into that. Quite often I'll go out with guitarists, sometimes along with a drummer as well, and most of the time I'll take vocalists with me. I wanted to be able to travel with it on my back and not need anybody else there, or be able to, you know, bring in a whole team around me and still do a performance. So
okay, that sounds really interesting. Si, because it sounds as though you've got quite a lot of projects going as well as the single. Can we see a brand new album in the mix as well for 2015?
Well, do you know what? It's funny you should say that. I've actually made one. I've got a whole album, which I was going to put out with Martin, but because I'd had a very busy year with another project that I'm on, which meant that I'd stepped away a little bit from the Si Tew stuff. Not massively, I was still doing things, but I wasn't doing as much as I would like to have been. So I created this album during that time. What I've decided to do now is kind of release that over little areas, you know, over a time, and then I'm going to work to put together a new album. Hopefully within the next year or two, I want a whole new collection of music ready to roll.
So in a nutshell then, can we see that album release this year, or are you going to leave it on hold until next year? I
think what's going to happen is hopefully there's going to be a lot of music coming out this year. So I've already got more releases signed with Martin for Atjazz Record Company. I've got some releases on other labels and also remixes and things happening as well. And while all of this is going on, I'm kind of constantly in the lab trying to cook up new music. And hopefully I will have a brand new collection ready to go next year.
Okay, so for the public or for the general listener, Si Tew is going to be a very active, releasing a lot of products.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan. I mean, the first half of the year has been, I can't believe we're saying first half of the year already. But yeah, the first half of the year has busy. I'm not sure how many things out. I've had 5 or 6 things out already, though, I think, this year. So it's been...
So for 2015, you've had quite a few releases out. So what can we see over the next 6 to 12 months released from Si Tew, the artist?
Right, okay, so from in the next few months we've got Breathe coming up, which is out on Atjazz Record Company. I have some other things signed with Martin as well for Atjazz Record Company that's going to be coming out, and also have some other remixes and also a couple of other releases on other labels, all of which will be hopefully out very soon. So just sorting out paperwork and bits and bobs for those at the moment.
Just out of interest, can you name some of the artists that you've been working with recently?
Yeah, so on the songs I've put together recently, worked with Martin on some stuff. So we've got the Missed Works project. We've got Molly on the next single. That's Molly Smitten Down. She's amazing. I've got a guy called Etta, who's vocalist from London, who's absolutely incredible. I've got Tinny, who's a brilliant singer, and she's on True Thoughts, so she's a feature on one of my songs. Okay. We've got Kylie Old East as well, who is also a great soul singer from Australia. She's also on True Thoughts, and she's a feature on one of my next releases as well. I'm sure Pete Simpson. How can I forget Pete? Yeah, so I've got another song with Pete Simpson, who also featured on my first album.
Oh, brilliant. Well, it sounds like for such a busy year, we're going to have to ask you to do one more job right here in the Kitten Club. Si Tew, you have been an absolutely amazing artist, sharing some of your stories, some of your experiences.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, you've been absolutely brilliant, Si. So I'm going to have to ask you to be a radio presenter now. I would love you to present your brand new single to the listeners here in the Kitten Club. Can you do that for me?
No problem at all. Okay, so this is my next single. This is called Breathe, featuring Molly, and it's out on Atjazz Record Company. Hope you enjoy it.
In the VIP lounge, my very special guest, Si Tew, and this is Breathe.